Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this professional learning opportunity. I am Scott Mathias from NCEA, and I will be your host today. Just a few housekeeping notes as people are joining. If you have questions during the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A or chat windows. We will be monitoring the questions and we'll try to answer them all in the allotted time. After today's webinar, I will email everyone a link to the recording as well as an online survey. Once you fill out the survey, a certificate of completion for the webinar will be emailed to you. Today's webinar, Collecting and Analyzing Data to Increase Enrollment, is being led by Ted Shimura and Marie Keith. Before I turn it over to the panelists, let us begin in prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Dear Father in heaven, we open our hearts, minds, and souls to worship you. Thank you that today we dwell in your kingdom and live in your presence. Thank you that as we gather together, we join with all Christians across the world to glorify your holy name. Come be with us, inspire us, and lead us in our time together. We ask all this in Jesus' name, amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Ted and Marie, thank you for joining us today.
Scott, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Glad to be here. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm very pleased to be part of the NCEA and presenting with one of my buddies, Ted Shimura from Redeker. I've had the pleasure of working with him and my clients to help a lot of schools increase their enrollment. So today, something near and dear to my heart, we're going to be talking about data and how data can help you increase your enrollment. A little bit of my background. I have worked in enrollment consulting for the past 10 years. I did a 5-year stint with the Independent Mission Schools in Philadelphia, which was an organization that took over 15 Catholic schools that were going to close and was instrumental in taking them from 3,600 students to 5,000 students in less than 5 years. I left wanting to have more outreach throughout the nation and started my own consulting business, and had the pleasure also of getting my own Archdiocese of Philadelphia as a client, working with Newark schools partnerships in Urban School Partnership in Newark, the Archdiocese of Newark. I got to go out to Cleveland to see Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and I'm still currently working with the Catholic Academies at Bridgeport in Connecticut. So I am looking forward to touching upon you today and helping you increase your enrollment as well. Ted, my partner, who's co-presenting with me today, you can tell a little bit about himself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Marie. Yeah, this is Ted Shimura from Redeker Software. In 2 days, I'll be celebrating my 8th year here as the technical sales manager, helping schools from all over the world decide on selecting student information systems and just generally helping them improve the way that they use technology in their schools. And of course, Redeker's been around for 42 years, and our affiliation with Catholic schools goes all the way back to the very, very first customer. That's right, Redeker's first customer was a Catholic school close to where I am here in Springfield, Massachusetts, and 42 years later, they're still using our software. For the longest time, we've been strongly affiliated with the NCEA. We cherish that partnership and certainly adore all of our Catholic school customers, which by far make up the vast majority of the Redeker customer base. The private religious schools, again, by far represent our customer base. And so we have a lot of knowledge here, a lot of things to share. I'm really looking forward to this meeting today, talking about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, again, using data to your best advantage when it comes to enrollment. Again, we work with Catholic schools and dioceses all over the country and all over the world. And so Marie, I'm going to kick it back to you. I know that this is generally a continuation of a very important general topic about enrollment at Catholic schools. And more specifically, you've defined several challenges in the area of enrollment at Catholic schools. And we're here today to talk specifically about one of those. Tell us more, please.
Yeah, so going into my clients and into the Catholic schools, I've noticed about 10 key 10 key things that keep them from kind of moving forward and from increasing their enrollment. Schools are not open for business, and I'll kind of explain a little bit about that and how that actually ties into the whole data and online application. Limited or untrained staff, handling enrollment, time kills, no data, ineffective lead nurturing and follow-up, no marketing, no strategic enrollment plan or goal setting. Your websites are student-based instead of prospect-based, the lack of storytelling and personalization, and leadership's desire to improve or change. But as I said, today's focus is going to be on the no data, because during the next few months, principals and school administrators are going to be focusing on their enrollment numbers as they prepare for 22-23. Budgets are going to be created based on these numbers. Programs and positions are going to be added and subtracted based on these numbers. Therefore, your data is critical. But many don't have that data to make these informed decisions and to guide them. Many of you know how many students are returning, and maybe you know how many are enrolled at this moment, but there's a lot of other key data that is missing that could really help you make better decisions. School administrators need a database enrollment dashboard that contains a daily snapshot of your results. And that dashboard should include things that will help you set your goals, do your budgets, create programs or let programs go, hire and fire, and know how many positions you need to bring on board. Marketing, what works best for your marketing, and your strengths and your weaknesses. So recently partnering with Rediker, I helped Catholic Academies of Bridgeport create their enrollment dashboard and to implement best practices. And I'm happy to report that they've had a 20% increase in enrollment. So I'd like Ted to maybe show what a dashboard that I'm talking about might look like for you. And we can go over the data that would be included in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to get logged into a program that we call Admissions Plus. And this is a program that's designed for our customers who have a need to better manage all of the data and information and the workflows associated with getting new prospective students and families signed up for the school. And Marie, I know that there's particular screens in here that you are fond of, and I know one of them happens to be the screen that shows what our targets for enrollment are and how the school is currently doing filling in those empty seats.
Correct. So the first piece of this is to have an online application system. So of course the system, once you've created that, all right, and you are now open for business, as I said, is one of my top 10 challenges, you are able to, at a glance, at a live moment, know at any time how many openings you have. So I'm sorry, can you scroll back up to the top there where I was?
Sure.
Up there. So someone's calling on the phone and saying to you, I would like to gain a class in your kindergarten, in kindergarten. You know that there are 4 openings still left in kindergarten at any moment. You know that, there's only 1 left in your 8th grade. Someone's calling you for 8th grade and they're looking for that spot. You so easily can provide them with the fact that they need to get in as soon as possible because there is only 1 spot left in your 8th grade. You also can look and say, hey, we only have 1 more spot left in our no more spots left in our 2nd grade. And we have 7 new applications coming in for 2nd grade. Is this a time that we might want to discuss opening up a second grade? And if not, how are we going to handle these students that want to come to our school? What happens if somebody comes in and they want to enroll a 6th grader, a 3rd grader, and a 2nd grader, and we now have no spot for that 2nd grader? So we're going to lose 2 other students as a result. So this is information that you need to be having and analyzing all the time so that you are prepared and can maximize your enrollment possibilities from there. Your genders may be important. You may want to know how many boys versus how many girls, the race. All right. If you've got all of a sudden you're seeing a lot of Latino children coming into your school, do you have the services to provide for them? Do you have someone who can translate? Are you offering your applications to meet the needs of those students and those parents? And are you going to be celebrating their special holidays and their special days based upon your demographics of your school. Okay, coming
Maria,
down. I'm sorry.
I happen to know that a lot of people think that it's very, very difficult to collect this kind of data and get this data into a system like this that could create these types of visualizations. But I know that you recommend that every school take advantage of the web and use online form system, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the beautiful part when I worked with you in particular was that we actually built our system together. I sat with your representatives and I determined what information was important to put into our applications. And of course, with guidance and knowledge, I mean, my knowledge of knowing what is needed was helpful, but, to understand that you want to collect, how did you hear about us? Why do you want to know how do you hear about us? Because that's going to help you make your marketing decisions, right? Where did you attend school previously? That's going to help you know who your feeder schools are, who your feeder preschools might be. What zip codes are your students coming from? So all of that information, what language do you speak, is built into these online applications that then gives you these dashboards and can be customized to show whatever data is important to you in making your daily decisions to grow your enrollment from there.
Maybe it would be helpful if we branched out here a little bit and showed a quick example of what the possibilities are. I'm going to use my own school website here called the Shimura Academy, and what we've done here is what we do for all of our customers that use our admission software. Is we show them how to invite interested families to come right to their website and start entering information about each of their prospective students, using integrated online forms, which the schools get to set up. They can ask any questions, Marie, that are important to them at the school, information that they need to make a decision about the prospect, information that they need in order to actually enroll the prospect into the school. It's very, very important that these forms be customizable and that the school can ask any of these important questions that need to be asked. Even collecting documentation like birth certificates and medical records, and of course, taking advantage of drop downs wherever possible to make it as easy as possible for parents to input this information so that you do have the data that's necessary to drive these results.
And a couple things going on that is, number one, having that online application to collect this data enables you to be open 24 hours a day. If it's convenient for a parent to go onto your website at 11 o'clock at night and put in their child's application at that time, then you are open for business. If they call the school and they're waiting for a paper application to come, you may lose them because time kills. Again, in my list of 10s. The other thing, that's that data that you're collecting in there. It's great maybe if you have a paper application and you're collecting this data, but what happens when you want to send a notification out because you're having a free basketball clinic and some of your applicants checked in there that they're interested in basketball? You can immediately go into your system and you can gather all the children who love basketball and you can send them an invite to your free basketball clinic, thereby bringing them onto your campus, getting them engaged with your school and having them touch your environment and kind of become a part of your family. So easily you can go in and say, all right, anybody who said they were interested in basketball, let's invite them to our CYO basketball clinic this weekend. And you've got it, boom. Document collection, that's not part of what but in analyzing the data, but that is a critical piece. And I'm going to tell most of you, you would absolutely love a system like this or any system where the parents can upload their birth certificates. They can upload their medical records and you're not chasing them down to bring them into the office and put them into your paper file. And it's done from home. They snapshot it on their phone, they screen it and it is in. So you've got, all through the process there that makes the entire collection process easy and save you time so you can focus on what's important to your families.
Yeah, Marie, that's awesome. You're talking my language here. Of course, that ability to store all of those documents electronically and receive them right from the parents through the power of the web. You might notice that I was able to immediately go in and filter my entire leads database by the interest in basketball so that we can easily round up every single prospect that has an interest in basketball. And to take this one step further, again, using the power of the data allows us to go ahead and generate targeted communications. So if we wanted to go ahead and communicate with all of the families who have a student who are interested in basketball, then in a matter of a couple of moments, we can create personalized invitations by merging the personal information from each of these prospects' records into the communication and only sending it out to those families that have a student who are interested in basketball. That's a fantastic way to leverage the data that's inside of the database to target communications to help increase enrollment. It's a great win.
Mhm. In the world of instant gratification as well, when I talked about that parent putting their application in at 11 o'clock at night, they no sooner hit the button and they get a welcome letter from your school right back to them. Thank you so much for applying to, Catholic Academy. We will be in the office tomorrow morning and we will give you a call to schedule an appointment. So they're getting that immediate response from you, despite no one being, no one sitting in the office right there. And they know they're going to hear from you. They're hopefully not going to go on and contact your competitor because the next day you told them you're going to be giving them a call. Now, what happens the next day? Your admissions person comes in, they log onto their system, and they know exactly who applied over the weekend and who they need to follow up with immediately. So, they're not picking up the phone and listening to the voicemails and jotting the numbers down and hoping they can hear the person's name and hoping they've got the numbers correctly. They've got everything right in that system. Their person already received a warm welcome letter from you. And now you are picking up the phone, being proactive and inviting them in for the next step or answering their questions. And you've got an entire dashboard and a system that shows you exactly where you are in the process with every single applicant. So if I'm a principal and I want to know from my admissions person, how many applications do we have? How many of them are scheduled for interviews this week? How many of them are coming in for shadow days? Where are they? Who's been accepted? We can see that in a simple glance. So admissions is a very measurable job. And people have to be moved through the process. And this gives you the exact way, the information to do that. Analyzing your data, such as how many inquiries did we get and how many moved on to the next step. It shows you, where you might be weak and where you might be strong. So let's say, for example, you're getting, 25 applications, calls a week, applications a week, but you're only bringing 10 of them in for interviews. We need to improve somewhere there. We're not doing enough on that phone call to excite them to come in for the appointment. Or let's say you're scheduling the appointment and they're not showing up. What's going wrong there in that process? Or they're coming in for their shadow day and then they're not enrolling. I had a client that had wonderful numbers from inquiries to setting up an appointment to coming in for a shadow day, and then they only had 10% of the people enrolling. So I said, all right, walk me through the process. Walk me through the shadow day. They walked me through the shadow day. I said, let me talk to a couple people that have come in for the shadow day and find out what went wrong. When I talked to the people from the shadow days, they said they got scared. It was overwhelming for them. They felt like it was beyond where they were. So we changed things up, but we wouldn't have known that otherwise.
Marie, you have some specific advice for those that are trying to increase enrollment about engaging with the schools that surround them that might be feeding them and sending them additional prospective students. And I know that you make a recommendation always for the school to capture that piece of information, the current school that the student is attending. And when we talked about this during our preparation, you had some really interesting thoughts about, what a school should do in the event that a lot of prospective students are coming from that school, and a lot of thoughts about what a school should be doing if they're discovering that they're not getting any leads from specific schools that surround them. I thought that would be powerful stuff. What can you share there?
Yes, so those of you that are from high schools, of course, it's critical. You want to know who your feeder schools are coming into your high school. For those of you in elementary school, if you need to beef up your sixth graders, you want to see possibly where the public schools are. What schools are they coming out after fifth and then switching over because they don't want to go to the middle schools? What pre-Ks or what daycares even are your children coming from? Let's say you have, a certain number that you get a lot of. You want to build a great relationship with that school. You want to go to that daycare, or you want to go to daycares that you want to pull from, and you want to maybe bring coffee and donuts there. You want to maybe drop flyers off or be there for school drop off, or maybe offer to speak at one of their meetings. But knowing that data and knowing where your schools are coming, what schools you're pulling from and which ones you need to work harder on, will help you, again, increase your flow, increase your enrollment. And remember, people follow the leader. And often when you get one or two from one school and you get them to start talking positive about it, it starts to grow. So making those little impacts in some of those schools is going to really move you along and help you grow from there. And having that information at your fingertips at any moment, not having to go through a bunch of papers and glance at them and say, oh, this one came from St. Mary's, or I think we have a lot from Sacred Heart. Don't think. You have to know that data, right? So all the data you need to know, you need at any moment for someone to be able to say, how many increase did you receive at your school? How many moved into visits? How many moved into shadows, applications, acceptances? All of this information, if you don't have this at every single moment at your fingertips, then you are doing your school a disservice, because you're making decisions by pulling numbers out of the air. When you're setting your budget, how can you set a budget if you can't realistically look and say, this many applications came in this year, our conversion rate was this. So, if we get the same number of applications, we have to increase our applications to get to this goal, or we have to increase our close rate, in order to be able to increase our enrollment by 10%. We have an 80% retention rate. We need to improve that. How are we going to improve that? And then, of course, the demographics that are going to help you with your marketing, such as the Catholic versus non-Catholic, ethnicities, zip code polls, anything that's important to your school to know, how to reach out to your audience from there.
That's an interesting transition. We've been talking so far specifically about capabilities that would be found in an admissions management system, but of course there's a very strong overlay and correlation here with a school's student information system, and some of the things that you just mentioned are very, very intriguing. Now, there's a lot of great student information systems out there. Of course, I'm logged into the Rediker Admin Plus system, but Marie, you mentioned something that's that should be relatively easy for a school to do. Just do simple tallies of the number of students, for example, that are Catholic versus non-Catholic. And I know in the Rediker system, I can, in a couple of clicks of the mouse, I can tally up the number of students in my database here that are Catholic. But we also have the ability to do, lots of demographic breakdowns. I think, for example, that you indicated that it might be important for schools to recognize where their students are coming from in terms of like zip codes or towns or cities.
Yes, let's say, for example, you want to do a direct mail piece and you want to know where you're pulling from or where you would like to pull from that you're not pulling from. You can easily put, and I've used this tremendous amount where I've looked and said, what pockets of the city are we pulling from our school, and where are we missing the mark? Or do we really, want to increase this area? And on the flip side of it, once they're in school, it helps you with your busing. Possibly you're able to look and say, we've got X number of kids from a certain street. I always say you have to bend over backwards, do cartwheels and handstands to bring kids into the school. And I've had situations where, someone wanted to enroll in the school, but there isn't busing for them. And I will go into the system immediately. I'll type in their address and I'll say, you know what? We have 4 other students that are in school here that live in your neighborhood whose parents bring them into that school. Let's maybe see if we can work out a carpool with them. I'm able to do that in a split second to save that enrollment, that somebody who has a problem, I'm finding a solution for them. And at my fingertips in 1 second, while I'm talking to them on the phone or they're sitting in front of me, I can solve their problem for them and get the enrollment for them. So, those types of things are incredible.
Yeah, well, this is actually quite basic in a system like ours, given the ability to take the data and immediately move it into Excel to do some pivoting on it, and it can be very, very granular here. I'm doing an analysis of the grade levels of the students, and we can bump that up against the zip code, and within a couple of seconds, be able to produce this, seemingly complex data. It's actually not that complex. Let me swap these around here. And now we're looking at a breakdown of our school data of my 285 students broken out by zip code and grade level at the same time, with the ability to drill in and find out, the names of or addresses of any of these particular students. You had also indicated that it is important for school to be able to immediately. I'm sorry, go ahead, Marie.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Immediately, go ahead.
Oh, you had mentioned.
You're on mute.
Actually, I'm not. Hopefully, seems to be a little trouble with the audio. Are you able to hear me, Marie? Might be a slight delay.
You're going in and slight delay, going in and out a little bit.
Yeah, same. I'm thinking it's Zoom.
And I'll take over if you want for a minute, but oh, okay. Thank you. It might just be me that couldn't hear you. I'm so sorry. So, in these systems, Ted, if you just go back to the one where we can actually see where they are in the process, if you could pull that up in the process of where you are. So we have, let's say, for example, we have a student who recently our schools were not bringing people in for tours yet. They got them to the point of enrollment, but they did not have them. They couldn't bring them in for the tour. The principal was not ready to bring them in for the tour, and it's kind of like a last kind of step before they have to enroll. And I said, well, we really want to enroll people, and then we'll make it contingent upon they're coming in for the tour. We picked up the phone and we called Rediker and we asked them to add that in. It's like a little kind of contingent step. So we were able to easily sort in a second, as soon as we opened up tours, how many children did not have a tour yet, and send an email out to them and say, we're having the tour, on such and such a date. Additionally, let's say you have an open house and you can check everybody who comes into the open house. And then the next open house you have, you can send the people who've never been to an open house very easily an email that says, we haven't seen you at an open house yet. We're having another one on Saturday. We hope you'll come out and join us. So, not missing anyone. No one is falling through the cracks. The same thing too is all your leads from last year. Okay. I've walked in schools and I've asked them to show me their leads from last year, and they told me they've already erased them out of their systems because maybe they're using an Excel spreadsheet, or they're using, another system that I won't name. But they said, oh, we can't put new ones in until we erase the ones from the year before. And I was freaking out, to be honest with you, because they're all your warm leads. You never stop touching a person unless they tell you to please take them off their mailing list. But it takes 9 touches generally to close someone. So last year's leads are the first person you contact when you have your open year for the next year. And it's so simple to do by going in and just, guess what? Our enrollment, last year you were not able to enroll or things didn't work out for you. We are now opening enrollment for next year. And you can do that. Another success story, huge success story I love, with the keeping track of the numbers in each grade. Working with the Catholic Academies at Bridgeport, 4 schools in Bridgeport, Connecticut. We already have all 4 kindergarten classes filled. They're all filled. We did early re-enrollment. We actually changed to automatic re-enrollment. And then we opened up the floodgates in December to start enrolling. And they're completely full for kindergarten right now. We were able to sit down, have a meeting, look at space, evaluate the situation, and open up a second kindergarten class. So here we are in March. We already know we have the 4 classes filled. We've got another class opened. So there's our growth already. And we can continue to evaluate. We're hiring one of the best teachers out there. We're not finding out all of a sudden in December or in August, you know what, maybe we do want to open up that extra kindergarten class, and finding teachers that, you know, are kind of hard to find at that point. So now we're getting top quality teacher at an early class that we're opening up. So that capacity planning is huge for you. It also shows you maybe you need to do more 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are kind of low this year. So let's do a targeted marketing just for the upper grades. That might look a little bit different than when you're marketing for your younger grades from there. So again, you know, going back to that success of Catholic Academies of Bridgeport, I started working with them 2 years ago and COVID hit. And it was a scramble. Everybody knows we were all terrified. What was going to happen? You know, kids aren't in school. I'm pleased to report that during that time, it was convincing that they had to have an online enrollment system. Absolutely convincing that they had to have that application system. We implemented it. And this year we opened with a 20% increase in enrollment. I mean, unheard of, 20% increase in enrollment. They already have 92% retention for next year. So we are way ahead of the game. I guarantee they're going to see another 10%. I attribute it to the online system, the well-oiled machine, and the best practices that I've been able to help them implement over the last 2 years. And I firmly believe that we should not just be surviving, we should be thriving. And most schools close because they haven't done these things. They haven't done everything they could to make sure every lead was handled properly, and that we're doing smart practices with our marketing and with, you know, using the data that we have from there. Looking at the time.
We're quite proud of that success down with that project that we did in the Diocese of Bridgeport. If anybody is interested in reviewing the case study that was done, it's a 3 or 4 page document. It's quite insightful, of course. You could just snap us a message through the Q&A system, and we'd be happy to get that over to you. So, Marie, you have you know, you've mentioned retention more than once, and I know that you have some specific recommendations on how schools can basically increase their enrollment by doing a better job of retaining the students that they already have. Maybe you have a few thoughts that you could share there as well.
Sure, correct. So I always find that everybody waits until Catholic School Week to open up their re-enrollment for the following year. And I firmly believe that by December, you should be opening up your re-enrollment. I actually am a big believer in automatic re-enrollment or continuous enrollment, which is, we could do another seminar on at some point, but that's where, you know, why would somebody want to leave? I mean, you just assume they're coming back every year unless they opt out. But one of the things that I found in schools is that they spent the entire summer chasing down current families because they hadn't sent back their forms to re-enroll yet. You know, at many schools, I mean, I'd walk in there in June and they'd have half the people that hadn't re-enrolled yet. Came down to a couple things. Number one, they sent the piece of paper home. The parent was supposed to fill that piece of paper out and send it home. They were supposed to send a check with it. And, you know, maybe they didn't have the money. Maybe they lost the form. Maybe they're holding it over the school's head because, you know, they want to make sure that little Johnny isn't mistreated, because if not, they're not going to send them back the next year. Couple things to streamline your process is, number one, have an automatic online enrollment system, so that you're just zapping it out there and having them update their information, and having an automatic pay. We just automatically add that registration fee to their January, February, and March bill. If they don't opt out of the school by December 31st, then on January, February, and March, they get a bill for $25, you know, to make their $75 registration fee on their bill. That enabled us to have 92% retention rate by January 1st, 92%. We knew exactly who was coming back, so we knew exactly how many seats we had left in the school. And we're not saving seats for somebody, putting people in waiting list, and then not having, losing those seats from there, which happens often. So that's available through Rediker. That's through the Admin Plus system, correct, Ted?
Yeah, you're right. That's through our system in Admin Plus called Online Forms. And we encourage every single one of our customers to take advantage of it, where a parent could, while logged securely into their parent portal, could go ahead and click on the form. And one of the single biggest benefits to the parents who all hate dealing with paper, the very last thing that they ever want to do is sit down and fill out a paper form, especially if it's a blank one that they have to go ahead and put in all of the same information all over again that they've given you before. It's very, very upsetting. And so hopefully every one of your student information systems provides you the ability to create these forms that can pre-populate with all of the existing data that's on file. And in this way here, if anything is wrong or needs to be changed, the parent simply needs to go ahead and correct anything that's wrong or fill in anything that's blank. They don't have to go ahead and fill in all of the same old information over and over and over again that they've given you before. The system also allows parents to attach documents to it, like updated medical records, etc. It allows them to indicate that they're agreeing to the terms and conditions. System even allows them to go ahead and make that commitment now. Go ahead and make that registration fee a payment, or the deposit on, deposit on tuition, or whatever types of fees that you may want to charge up front. And then all they have to do is click the submit button. Back in the office, the administrators simply need to go in and retrieve that information from the online forms system without typing any data at all, and basically making sure that all of the data about those students that is so critical for running the school and for leveraging that data can all be made up to date without any of you having to type anything at all. The system, again, allows the parents to make the changes right on the web. And in our system, all that's necessary is for you to then go ahead and retrieve that data back into the system. And of course, this might not look too impressive at the moment because I only had one form. But in my school of 401, I could easily expect after a week or two of posting the online re-enrollment forms that there would be, 350, maybe 375 of them all filled out, ready to go. And if I pull that student's record up, I'm going to see that the changes that I made in the online form have already been written to the database for me. And the system has already marked the return intent of this particular student has been set to yes. And one of the reasons that that is so important is because if we want to be able to isolate all of the parents who have not yet signed up, have not yet submitted their re-enrollment forms, we might want to go ahead and use the communication system to send text messages, voice phone call messages, and email messages, not to all of the parents. No, not the ones who have already gone through the process, but I'm going to need to isolate only the ones who have not yet indicated that they're going to come back. And of course, in our system, there's that list. Here's that list of parents who have not yet sent in their re-enrollment forms. And so in a matter of moments, we can be communicating with them and directing these communications only to the parents who have not yet gone through the re-enrollment process. Marie, and as you suggest, this should absolutely be done sooner rather than later in the year. Many of our customers do this process in January and February, and by mid-March, they've got 98% of the forms back in and ready to go.
Correct. I want to go back to a little bit of collecting this data. Once you're able to get a system and you have data, and especially as the years go on, imagine walking into your board meetings, all right? Because boards always love They always love, what's our 5-year analysis? How are we doing this year compared to the last couple of years? What's going on? So imagine being able to just go into your system and pull up exactly. This is how many leads we've had over the last 5 years. This is how many, this is the data we've had this is how many we've had in first grade for the last 5 years, second grade for the last 5 years. Do you see the trend coming in, here? I mean, it's to be able to walk in there and look at this data, it shows you something. It shows you maybe like, there's trends going on here, or you keep having to add, as these kids keep kind of graduating. Now once we've added this second kindergarten class at our school, what are we going to have to do next year? We're going to have to add another first grade class. So we already know what kind of capacity planning in advance. Hopefully we'll still have to have another kindergarten class next year as well. So where are we putting these kids? We can start talking about that now, okay, for 23, 24, because we have the data and we're on top of things from there. And just, having that information is in talking about marketing, for example, one of my schools, I went into them and they said, we want to ask, the pastor if we can do a billboard. And I said, well, have you done billboards before? Yes, we have. Well, how did they work? Oh, they worked great. How many leads did you get from them? I don't know. The phones seemed to be busy at that time. I said, well, how much did the billboard cost? They said $10,000. I said, so you're going to go say to Father, I need $10,000 for a billboard, but you're not going to be able to give him any facts on, how many rolled from that. Imagine walking to your pastor or your decision maker and saying, Father, we'd like to put a billboard up on the highway. Last year, we put a billboard up on the highway and it cost us $10,000. We got 25 leads from that billboard and we enrolled 10 people. At a tuition of $4,000, we made $40,000. Father, do you feel this is a good investment for our school? You're going to sell that a lot easier when you have those facts and you can pull that out of your system and you use that data. The other thing I say when I walk into the schools and they say, we don't have the money to add an admissions module, or we'll have one of our tech people write it for us. All right. And I've seen some of the systems. They're Excel spreadsheets, they're, homemade, database systems. Here's what I say. It generally costs about 5 enrollments to add an admissions module, to put an admissions system into your school. All right. So let's look at the Catholic Academies of Bridgeport, for example. They had 180 increase in enrollment in 1 year. 1 year. They went from 720 to 900 students in 1 year. I would think that the cost of that system, along with hiring me as a consultant, absolutely had a return on investment. So yes, you might be spending, but what you're going to make by capturing that data is going to be tenfold from there. So what are you showing us, Ted?
Well, I've been showing some examples of what I would consider to be a little bit more of the advanced data analysis. So you're talking about the ability to walk into a board meeting and have direct evidence and be able to produce important visualizations about data that maybe has been gathered over the course of several years. And, everybody should realize, everybody on this webinar today should realize that the ability now to generate some of these more complex visualizations of data, which empower you and give you the ability to make decisions better than ever before, is no longer necessarily incredibly expensive or incredibly complex. I mean, heck, what you're looking at here on the screen is default information that appears on the screen for a Redeker Admin Plus customer, so that they can have a much better idea what percentage of their students are they retaining from year to year to year? How successful are they in getting new students to join the school? And frightfully, how many of those students by graduating year are withdrawing from your school, are basically going somewhere else or doing something else? This is not difficult to do anymore. Years ago, this would require basically someone with the credentials of a data scientist, maybe a six-figure salary, to be able to go in and crunch these kinds of numbers and gather these kinds of visualizations.
Mhm.
I'm showing you an example of a tool we call Livebook, which allows these advanced visualizations to be generated by a very ordinary user in a matter of seconds, so that you can be empowered to make better decisions and to go to your board meetings much more prepared than before.
Some couple little things are popping up in the chat area, and someone, Kim McManus, asked what was the key driver of the large increase at Bridgeport in addition to consulting. I would say there were two factors. When I came in, there were 4 individual schools working in their own silos, so they were each kind of doing their own thing. They had paper applications, and they did not have a process. When I came in there, I trained all 4. We got an online application system immediately, and I have one central person who oversees kind of the lead enrollment person. So she goes into the system on a daily basis. She sees what applications are in there, and she assigns them to the school. So if the one school's kindergarten is already filled, she's flipping them into the other school, as opposed to before they would call into the school and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, our class is filled." Now we're kind of capacity planning across the 4 schools, and we've got a very well-oiled machine with it, because we're not losing enrollments, and we're looking at the leads for all 4 schools and saying, you know what, we would have only said, oh, we have 2 extra kids on the waiting list at this school, and 2 here and 2 here and 2 here. But if we pull all together and convince them all to come to that one location, we can open up another classroom. So it's just really kind of analyzing. I believe in going into a school and doing a 1 to 2 day overview, like take their temperature. I just review everything, give them their report on, I think, what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong and what I think they can be doing better, and then just hard drive implementing all those things from there. So someone else also asked what a healthy conversion rate would be. That's difficult. I would say if you are, out in the suburbs, in more affluent areas, they say 90% is excellent. If you can retain 90% of your students, that's excellent. I would say you want to retain a minimum of 75%. But again, depending, if you're an inner city school, and you're in a neighborhood where families have a little more trouble struggling with funds, it's going to fluctuate. So I think it really depends. All I can say is you should look at what that is and improve it. Whatever it is, you want to improve. So you set yourself a goal. If you've retained 60 this year, guess what? We're going to retain 70 next year. And just always look to improve and talk to the people who have left. I had a school one time where almost all the 7th graders were leaving. And I picked up the phone and I called them. And I asked the admissions girl, and she said, I don't know, they're just all kind of playing follow the leader. Well, they said that the classroom they were going to be moving up to was freezing cold, and none of them wanted to go up to that classroom the next year. Quick fix, we got a heater, and we pulled them all back into the school, but without knowing that, you can't save them. So my takeaways for today, and hopefully are the same for you, is that if you do not have an online application database dashboard, you need one. Talk to me, talk to Ted. We can help you, with the decisions, or can help convince whoever it is that you need a system to get an online marketing system. If you're making big decisions, setting your goals, doing your marketing, setting your budget, doing capacity planning without analyzing the data, then you're not making smart decisions. You're pulling numbers out of the air, and you're setting yourself up for failure. And if you want to maintain or grow your enrollment, you must look at your data and understand where you need to improve. If you're not, if you have a hefty goal to make and you're not getting the leads in, you need to look and say, we need more marketing. Sister, if we're going to meet that goal and we need to bring in 50 more kids, I'm only getting 3 leads a week. We're not going to make it. We need to do more marketing, or we need to close more kids. We need to up our conversion rate, or we need to do something different about our open house. So they're the 3 things I think that are really critical. And I guarantee if you do those 3 things, you will see an increase in your enrollment. guarantee. How about other questions?
Yeah, this is great. The Q, I see that the Q&A has some Q&A in it, and I see that the chat has some chat going on in there. We're certainly going to be here for another 5 or 10 minutes. If anybody would like to pump a live question in there, by all means, go ahead. But Marie, I think that we should take a moment here after doing all this hard work now for almost 50 minutes to put a little bit of a plug in for what's going to be happening here at the NCEA convention. You're going to be there, right?
Yes, I was very pleased to be chosen as a speaker in person, not the virtual side of it. So I will be in person in New Orleans. I'm speaking on Tuesday, the 19th, late afternoon time slot. I think my time slot is like 3:30 to 4:45. So if anyone is going to be there in person, whether you make it to my presentation or not, please try and hunt me down, find me, and say hello to me. And then go over to the exhibit hall and stop by the Rediker booth.
Oh, absolutely. Booth 112. We're excited to be back in person after a couple of years of not being. So we're certainly looking forward to that. And again, always our relationship with NCEA and all the Catholic schools is just so important and precious to us. We can't thank you all enough, especially you who are on the webinar right now, who are customers of Rediker. We appreciate you even a little bit more, I don't mind saying. So Marie, I think it's time to wrap up. And from Rediker Software, we want to thank everybody who have hung out here today, and of course everybody who may watch the recorded webinar. Be looking for the link to that very, very soon.
Okay. You have one quick question though, Ted. How do you get on the live book URL? You could probably type it up.
How do you get on the live book URL? Well, unfortunately or unfortunately, you can't do that unless you have a live book subscription. So if you're a Rediker customer and you don't have live book, then you might want to go ahead and check in with your representative here at Rediker Software, who can give you more information about the live book program and perhaps even schedule a meeting where we can discuss some of your data analysis and visualization needs or requirements. It's a fantastic topic. It's one of our newer programs. We're very, very excited about it because we're able to do some incredibly powerful things that customers have been asking for years. Okay, and with that, I guess Scott is going to come back in and wrap everything up.
Yes, thank you both.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation, and hopefully people were able to put that together with the previous presentation that both of you, well, Maria, I'm not sure if you were on the first one. I didn't host that one, but we're looking forward to seeing you at the convention. Again, if you are interested in that, it's April 19th through the 21st. And if you'd like to register, you can go to ncea.org/convention or ncea.org/NCEA 2022, and we would certainly look forward to seeing you there. We are also offering the convention virtually, and when you go to the registration page, you will see information on registering for either the in-person or virtual convention. I saw one more question. Oh, the presentation slides, and I see you answered it, Ted. So the slides will be sent to people if they request them through your sales@rediker.com email. Well, thanks again. And if you want to attend our future webinars, you can take a look at our website, ncea.org/webinars. And we look forward to seeing you there or at the convention in New Orleans. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.